Welcome back to the podcast. First one with intro music. So that's fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That is the new
I
sound
haven't even
of
heard it yet.
the intentional creator. Yeah, we're actually going to decide it after this podcast, so it'll be in the editing phase. So we don't know what it sounds like, but we hope it's good and you enjoyed it. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Dean. I'm joined here with Jackson, and today we're speaking about how to find your style. I just jumped on a call with Jackson about 20 minutes ago, and we just have phone calls like once to twice to three times a week just about life and everything. And I started having a conversation about like where I'm at with my creativity, and you just stopped me midway. You're like, wait, save this for a podcast. This is a good conversation.
You didn't talk.
So I was actually, when I went to the bathroom now, I was like, this podcast is actually creative therapy. And I was like, whoa, that's actually a great name for a podcast, creative therapy.
Wow, I like that.
We're about to change the name of the podcast.
Start your second podcast, dude. Start it with somebody else in your field.
Creative therapy, such a good name. But I mean, I like the intentional creator as well. So
no, it's great. I'll be a guest on that one whenever you get going.
We'll get there. That would actually be cool to do with like a bunch of other people, and like if I was the quote unquote creative therapist and had people creatives come on with their problems. That's a sick idea. No one steal that idea. I'm gonna do that one day.
No, you got it. It's locked into you. You just got to do it, because if you don't do it, I'll do it, and then it'll be like awkward.
What's the bet somebody has that name as a podcast? I'd be pretty willing to bet that's taken.
Let's find out.
You're about to find out right now? Okay, while you Google that.
Bring us back.
Yeah, let's bring us back to the topic at hand. Let's stay on track. So I was having some creative therapy with Jackson, and I had just started making a film about gardening and like planting my own garden in front of my house, and I'm making a little story about that in a little film, and I've really enjoyed doing it so far, and I love the direction that it's going in, but at the same time, I also love another style of filmmaking, which is really almost like hands-off and not subjective at all, more objective in a sense, where it's just a still camera like looking at the thing that you're doing, and it's just like peace and quiet and silence, and it is very focused on just look at this thing I'm doing, like just this is a raw capturing of this thing,
documentation,
versus the subjective storytelling of your experience and your personality. And I love both styles so much, but they are so conflicting in a way. And so I've been struggling with that and like where I want to take my channel. So a good example of one of the struggles I'm having is I want to go do an adventure to an island that's just off the coast of New England and like stay on the island for a night. And so there's two different styles I have in my head of how I could make this video. Actually, three. So there's three different styles of how I could make this. So the first one is doing the very hands-off approach, where it's just still tripod, just filming me doing the thing that I'm doing, walking onto the island, setting up camp, making a fire, exploring the island, blah, blah, whatever. And I don't say anything. It's just, that's the experience. And I make it look really beautiful and pretty and cinematic. Second one is me telling an actual story of my adventure. And the point to it is that the whole point, the idea behind this film is that you don't need to live in some magical wild place to go on an adventure. Like, make an adventure where you are. Like, it's all about your perspective. So for me, it's like Connecticut isn't really a place for outdoor sports or adventure. Well, at least that's what people think, and that's what I've thought for the longest time. But it's like, you just go do stuff. Like, there's an island right there that I've never stayed on, but why not? Like, I can do it. So the story is about making your own adventure, and that would be a very personal, subjective approach to making that film. And then the third way would still be the more like raw documentation of it, but it would almost just be like a GoPro kind of vlogging view, where I would tell the whole story from the perspective of me, like right in that moment. There would be no like voiceover or third person or like drone shots or anything like that. It would just be like a very old school vlog. And so like I don't know if you've seen
Old school vlog. That's
I don't know
so
if you've
funny.
seen the guy Outdoor Boys on YouTube, or you've heard of him.
I think so. I think I've heard of him for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know
so
if I've
he
seen
just
a lot
goes
of
on these
stuff.
crazy adventures and just literally has a GoPro and
Right.
gets tens of millions of views. And his videos are so simple. Not that they're simple in what he's doing. Like, he's doing really crazy,
Yeah, he's
epic
just- yeah.
adventures. But the actual filmmaking of it is him just with a GoPro. And that's all he
Right.
does.
It's just part of his, like, it's literally part of the adventure in the sense of, like, yeah, it's a character.
So
in
it's
the
like
scene.
the least resistance possible to actually like doing the thing. And so I think
Right.
about that as well when it comes to filmmaking, is like the balance between making the film, being a filmmaker, and being the adventurer, the person
Right.
doing the thing, is a difficult balance. Like even in this gardening film I'm making, it's like not only am I being the gardener, but I'm also being the filmmaker. So I have to have like two different brains at the same time. Whereas if somebody else was filming me, I could just be the gardener or just be the hiker or just be the adventurer. So it's like taking into account that those factors as well into what your film looks like. And I think it would be good for me to just
Well,
like,
I think it's
test out a bunch of different ways and see what works and like what flows the best with each activity. Because like if you're doing a ultra marathon, for example, it's going to be very difficult to go set up a tripod every 2 meters and get a shot of yourself. Like that's going to be best filmed on a GoPro where you can like hold it and run and do your thing. Or if you have somebody else filming you. So yeah, I've just been like struggling with how I want my channel to go and what form the videos want to take. I feel a lot more like
what
after
kind of
doing
style
this-
you want to have, you want to like produce.
I feel a lot more secure in what videos I want to be making on my channel. But now it's like, how do you make that? And that's like one of the previous podcasts where we spoke about like the start with why circle, where it's like start with the why in the middle and then it goes to how. So I'm on that phase right now of like, okay, I know why I'm making what I'm making. I know what I want to make, but now it's like, how does that look like? And yeah, that's what would you have to say to me, therapist Jackson?
That was a great like analysis. That was a great like picture that you painted of the whole. I'm excited for you to go see this island. I can't wait to see what happens out there.
I know, me too.
I mean, I like how I think about it is very much just like I'm gonna go do all three, and I think that's maybe an unhealthy way to approach it. But like in a sense of like, all three of those styles are still very similar. They're very present based. They're not.
They all
like,
have the same why as well.
They all have the same why. They're all like locked into the same thing. And so I'm not saying like I think that there's definitely. Well, I think first of all, this is a good problem to be having for the creative, like in the sense of like it's such a great problem to have to like be like, wow, there's so many options for how many stories I could tell. Like I just want to like appreciate that first and foremost. That's so cool.
That's true. Yeah.
And also, then, I think it really is just about like trial and error, and not in a trial and error way of like I've got to go fail. You know what I mean? But like exploratory, like it's all exploratory. It's just kind of like, wow, like what am I feeling inspired by lately? What movies am I watching? What things am I absorbing? What kind of where's my own like excitement going? And how do I create through and out of that? And then it will kind of create its own thing almost. It's like, it's like part of the adventure in its own way. Like, how do you want to create a film that's so unique to that experience? You know, maybe you do some vlogging for a second, or maybe you do some just tripod stuff, or maybe you do, you know what I mean, a little bit of all of it. But, you know, you're kind of just flowing with the moment and the experience of going and like how the day's going and like, wow, I've got like 30 minutes here. I can just like set up my tripod for a second while I'm on the boat or something. That's how I would think about it in that creative cycle. But I think that goes for everything too, like in the sense of like, you know, in the creative process and in the creative, you know, exploring the stories that you're trying to tell as a creator. You know, you're really tuning into like that. You're tuning into that relationship with the story itself. Right? Like, what is the story that you're telling? What are you expressing? What are you experiencing? And how does that experience want to tell you how to create it? there's a lot of edges there.
Yeah.
And you obviously bring a lot of creative stuff to it, you know what I mean? And a lot of your awareness of like how you're going to shoot and how you're going to think about it, you bring that to it. But that's how I think about, like, in the sense of my own creative process. Like, that's definitely like how my creative style is evolving, and it's definitely a style, and it's definitely coming into something that I don't even know what it's going to look like yet, but that's how I think about it, at least.
I also think it depends on what you're doing. And I mean, I kind of said this,
That's
like,
true,
with the running thing. Like, if you're doing a trail running video, that's going to look very different to a hiking video where you can take your time and set it up more. And also, like, a trail running video might be more of a story because you have this, like, physical challenge to overcome. And so it's the physical challenge, the mental challenge, versus hiking, where it might not be that challenging for you, or there might not be like a point to it necessarily. So if I'm like, I want to go hike up Half Dome in Yosemite, and it's like, there's no reason why necessarily, there's no story. I mean, there's always a story in something, you can make a story out of anything, but if I'm just like, I want to do it because I want to do it because it's a cool place to go hike, and then it's like, okay, I don't have a story around that, versus I want to hike Mount Katahdin, which is the end of the Appalachian Trail, because it's like a challenge and I need to get there to like hike the end of the Appalachian Trail or whatever. I'm just for example.
Yeah.
Then there's an actual story behind that. There's mental and physical struggle versus just doing a hike for the sake of doing a hike. And then, like, I also think about what does the audience want to see? Do people care? I mean, I know story is like the most powerful thing in the world, but at the same time, do people care about your story if they don't know you? Like, wouldn't an objective, raw documentation of an experience almost be more helpful to more people?
Right. So they could really feel it and really see it.
Yeah. So even like for Envision, for example, the festival, so I have a bunch of footage from there, and it's all very raw and objective. Like, it's me just capturing the moments. I didn't like vlog or anything there, or like say anything. So now I'm thinking about how I want to put that film together, and I'm like, is it just a raw capturing of the experience? And like, this is what you can expect from Envision. And then afterwards I can talk about it and be like, okay, this is what to expect. Like, it's really hot there, like it's humid. Make sure you bring this to that and that. Like, this is how long you're going to be there, blah, blah, whatever. Versus me telling the story of like how I got there, what I was doing, what I went through. Yeah, it's just two very different approaches. It's subjective versus objective, and it's like, how do you know what to choose?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I mean, and then it's funny. My mind still goes to just like, you do both. In a sense of like, if you're going to create something for the audience, if you're going to do something for the audience, like, so, and this is just how my creative mind works in general, in a lot of this stuff, I think. I have, obviously, like, we're talking about the audience mind and then the creator, the creative
That's
mind.
what it is, essentially.
It really the struggle. Is exactly that struggle, because the audience mind is going to crave a certain style.
Yeah.
There's going to be a certain stylistic thing happening with that, and even the algorithm and all the sort of digital stuff that we're playing with has an effect in that too. So all of that's kind of like lumped into that audience, and then it's just like, and then what do you want to say? Like, how do you want to show up? What do you want to create?
Yeah.
And I think the nice thing about at least how I think about it is like, the nice thing about the audience stuff is like, short form content is it's a lot easier, right? It's a lot easier in the sense of production to get it out, and so
it's
like
also more conducive to experimentation, I find. Because short form content, like, it's gonna be gone in 2 days, and no one's gonna see it again.
Yeah, nobody
probably
cares.
Ever. Maybe
and
one or two people if they go on your profile, but it's lost. Whereas, like, I think
like
YouTube is a lot more prominent. What?
It's like a film photo. You're not going to scroll by it twice. It's a really, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's short. It's super short, and it's going to be gone. So you can like play around with that more.
Yeah.
And like explore those creative edges more. And I think that, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said for like forming your style and finding your style, and then that creates an expectation from your audience, because that's why they followed you, that's why they subscribe to you. And so if you start doing something like completely different, then should they care? Why would they stick around if that's not what they followed you for? So yeah, right. It really just is the game of what you want to create versus what your audience expects to see from you.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the goal of that is to find that middle's edge, where you're riding that middle line of like, you know, you're both communicating to the audience, but you're also communicating through and out of yourself.
Yeah.
And as an artist, and I think a lot of trial and error. And I do think that, like, in the sense of, like, a lot of the ways that I think about stuff is, like, I'm going to have the short form content, the stuff that I need to do for the client, the stuff that I need to produce for the work, whatever. But I'm also going to, while I'm there, I'm going to kind of document and create this other experience for and with myself. And then I think the editing gets fun because, like, there's so much you can play with over the course of time.
Yeah.
Like, you can really do all the stuff you need to do for the audience kind of soon, and then really take your time with, like, really simmering with these ideas and simmering with what you want to say and what story you want to tell. You know, if it's flowing out of you, you can crank it out. But if there's any sort of, like, I don't know how to, like, whatever, you can kind of, like, sit with it and just, like, allow it to kind of ruminate and be like, this is the content I have, you know? And let yourself be an artist with it almost, and just, like, let it breathe.
Yeah.
Which I think is super valuable and, again, super important in this, like, fast speed world that we're in, is to, like, let things breathe a little bit more instead of just rushing it out because the algorithm wants it to come out.
How would you describe your style?
I have no idea. I mean, it's definitely got the influence of Jay Alvarez. He's literally, it's so funny.
Are you being serious
like,
right now?
I'm being serious. I'm being dead ass. Like, my editing style is that vibe. 100%. Not because I'm trying to do what Jay Alvarez did, but because what Jay Alvarez was doing inspired all of us who came out of it.
That is true. Yeah,
he was the front runner of all of it, and what it was basically a documentation of energy. Like, he just showed his vibe. He showed what he was on. He showed what, like, where he was at in his life and what he was up to. He was just documenting all of it, but it was just so cool, and the way he edited it felt so fun. So in the sense of, like, all of my films, if you watch them, they're all in that style of, not Jay Alvarez, but, like, in the style of documenting where I'm at. What's happening for me, what's going on for me, what's, like, moving through me, what am I thinking about. A lot of the music is very tuned into, like, where my mental process is at. It's very much like an expression of, like, that chapter of my life.
Yeah.
And
I
don't know what kind of style that is.
I was gonna say, do you try and have a style at all, or, like, emulate any style, or create a style, or you just, like, does that come across your mind at all?
Not anymore. I used to think about that a lot when I was doing the YouTube stuff back in the day, but now it's just I don't have time to think about that too deeply. I've got to get stuff to clients first of all. Like, I've really just got to get stuff out to people. I'm making my money. I'm getting the bag, kind of thing. Yeah. So a lot of my style is based in a documentation format. So in the sense of, like, I'm very much I think about it as street photography. Like, I'm very much a street photographer in the sense of how I shoot video too. I'm just documenting this thing that's happening and that I'm doing or that's going on in my life because I'm doing so much, and I'm just documenting the thing. And then basically, you know, as I document stuff over the course of, like, a month or something, because I'm always recording stuff. I'm, like, putting it into, like, this kind of, like, story thing in my head, I guess, or hear a song or something that'll resonate with me and that I'll vibe with or something, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. That resonates, like, with where I've been at, what I've been thinking, and what's been going on. That can help tell this story. And again, I've got a bunch of these on my YouTube channel. You can go check out if you want. But again, like, I don't know what style it is. And then all the visual stuff, like, in the sense of how I think about it visually, is very much just, like, Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
I love that movie.
Street photography, like, very much just, like, I'm adventuring. I'm living my life. I'm going through ups and downs. I'm going through experiences. So some edits are really nice and clean. Some edits are just super like on my iPhone, whatever. I'm not thinking about it is the thing. I'm not thinking about all the ways I should record it. I'm just recording it and doing it.
Yeah.
And so there's really like no style that I can think of.
Yeah, there's less creative paralysis
emanating.
and more just doing. Which I think is the best way to do it, is just keep creating. Because then you find your style through creating.
Exactly. And that's the best way to do it, is just to shoot constantly as much as you can. And you got to break down, I think, the thoughts of, you're really working with your ego the whole time, because you're really working through the fact that, like, man, right, well, today I'm catering for 12 hours. You know what I mean? Like, that's not exactly something that, like, is super cool for, you know, my hip, cool, like, recap video.
Yeah.
But it's also just part of what's going on in my life, where I'm at, what's going on, like how I'm making my money, like the work that I'm doing. And so you're really working with that stylistic voice in the head that's saying, well, the audience would like this. Well, you would like this. Well, that looks cool. Well, that's going to kind of...
It's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder.
Yeah, totally. It's just like they're talking to me all the time. And it's and even, you know, that they're there the whole process, like through the editing, through all the different pieces of it. And I think, again, that's your creative relationship, that's your creative punching bag, is that inner critic, or that inner conversation between the inner critic and the inner artist, or whatever you want to call it, and like navigating what they're trying to say to each other, and like how they're working and communicating.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always having that battle. I'm always flip-flopping between, okay, I'm done with what everyone else wants from me. I'm just going to make what I want to make. And then I do that for a while, and then, like...
You don't have any money.
Quote unquote, nothing comes from it. Yeah, there's no, like, sustenance to it. I mean, there is in, like, a creative fulfillment way, but, like, not in a career-based way, where I'm putting so much time and effort and love into these films, and then, like, it gets 200 views, and I'm like, okay, not that I care about the views, but if I want to be doing this, then I need to get views so I can sustain doing this.
And that's a lot of the reason why I do stuff like that isn't creative, catering and like landscaping and like all these other things, is because it's actually giving me my creative energy the space to do whatever it wants to do.
Yeah, you're not relying on your creative.
Right, I don't have any. There's no responsibility that's resting on my creative shoulder, so it can really play as much as it wants to.
Yeah,
which is something I really actually like. You know, when I first started, I struggled with. I was like, that's rough. Like, I don't want to be doing this. You know, I was like really having a hard time like getting over my own ego about what I was doing with my life and what was happening for me. But now I actually enjoy it, because I'm like, whoa, like I can actually, I have a lot of skills now in other various forms of whatever that are really nice to be able to use. B, the pressure is nice. They're not having the pressure of like social media, you know, all the things that you're supposed to do for your brand to get it to grow is really nice. Yeah. And really amazing. And I'm enjoying that. So I think that this is a big battle and a big conversation and a big inner battle in all of the creative units, you know, people out there doing stuff.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some notes on my phone right now of stuff that I took during the weekend. I said, well, this is pretty much what we've been speaking about, but I said I'm stuck between making purely informational, valuable content and story films about my adventures. And then a follow-up question to myself was, well, are you a content creator or a filmmaker? And I was like, damn, that's
a great question.
That's tough. Because I feel
that's such a great question.
Yeah, the filmmaker is the artist, the one that wants to express and like doesn't care about views or followers. But the content creator is the one that
audience
that needs that and creates for the audience and builds a relationship and all that kind of stuff. So it is really finding that balance and that relationship, which is really difficult, and like making the choice of, okay, do you want to be a content creator that makes a video of 5 best hikes to do in New England versus this is my story of summiting Mount Cassidy and finishing the Appalachian Trail.
And especially for the visual of that too, like in the sense of like how that feels landing on somebody's page, it kind of like in the sense of when you see stuff like that, it kind of tells you something about the creator. And I feel like this is part of the conversation as well. You know, it's like, oh, you know, they're gonna be selling their thing, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I want to, and if you're looking for like sustenance or something, that's gonna be a turn off. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, there's this inner battle of like, well, wait a minute, the audience I want to market to, I know they're gonna love this, but it's harder to get through the noise. It's harder to get through the noise, and if I wanted to get through the noise, then I would kind of turn and shun them away.
Yeah, yeah, almost. It's really tough. And then I'm also thinking about like how, like being a content creator, making those 5 best hikes or how to do this hike or best backpack gear for this hike. Like anyone can do that. Anyone that knows like a little bit of information about the outdoors can make videos like that. It's not difficult to be a content creator. The difficult part about being a successful content creator is consistency. That's all it is. You don't have to be technically
that's actually such a
talented.
Not difficult.
That's another
it's
show.
It's not difficult to be a content creator.
I mean, it's really not. Like, you don't need to know that much. You just need to be consistent about posting about the thing that you're doing. And like, yes, provide value, but again, it can be top 5 hikes in each state, and you could make a video about each of those. So I could very well do that super easily. Is it creatively fulfilling? No.
Right.
No. Would it build an audience? Probably. Would it make money? Probably. Would it do better than me making a film about going to sleep on an island? Probably.
Yeah.
And so that's the battle.
Then the question, when I think this is the other part of it too, because like I am going into this conversation with the thought process as I'm going to play both parts. Like I'm 100%.
So how do you do that then in the like post production of that? Are you making 2 different pieces? Are you making them in the same piece? Like what does that that physically look like when you
I don't really know yet. You know, like it's because you really do you're literally operating out of like left brain, right brain. Creativity almost.
Yeah.
And so it's still something like I'm working on. I'm still refining it. I'm still figuring out how to do it.
Okay, so this is theoretical right now. But like I know you
I mean, it's theoretical, but in the sense of like, you know, even on my Instagram I've started to post more reels. Yeah. Right? This is a great example. I've started to post more reels. And just because I've started to record more of my stuff, and I'm just like I need more short form content out. So like I'm thinking, there's a part of my brain that's thinking in a way of like, how can I use a couple of trends that I've seen to like create short form content that kind of aligns with how I do my thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important first step is like, you know, again, don't go to it from a content perspective. What works for you perspective? Like what of the content creator cyclical habits work for you, and get in that rhythm first almost. Like, so in the sense of like, for me, there's been these like the POV things, the POV Instagram reel trend or whatever. It's like POV, you know, you graduated college or something. And then there's like this, yay, blah. That resonates with me. It works for me. I feel like I can tell a story through that. I feel like I can express that in the right way. I can like use that to an extent with the content that I shoot and kind of how I shoot it. And so that's been something that I've started to poke into in the sense of like I've just been doing that more consistently, and it's been, you know, it's been working. Like I can tell that it gets into the algorithm more because it's more trendy.
Yeah.
And also, you know, the way I tell the stories feel in resonance with who I am and what I'm saying with this stuff that I put out. Other than that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't have, like, a good formulaic, like, this is how I do the balance of both of those. Then I think about YouTube. I think YouTube's a little bit easier because you can just do, like, okay, well, here's a bunch of how-to videos, and then here's my film content stuff. And I definitely think that there's going to be an annoying, like, kind of ugliness of that on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, I have to, you know, make it work. It doesn't matter, like financially, like it has to work for me in the sense of like I know how to do this and I want to be a content creator and I want to be able to make money online, so like I'll just compromise. And I think too, again, in that I'm bringing my stylistic energy to it. So in the sense of like I'm not doing how-to videos of like things that I don't know about and I'm just trying to get views off of.
Yeah, no, I know that. It's still related to your why and your story and that.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important piece of the content creator conversation. It's just like, be a content creator, but just pick something you love and you're good at, or pick something you love and you're training it. Pick something you love and pick something you love. You need consistency in the things you love to develop discipline and develop expertise in it. Use content creation as a way to help develop that discipline and expertise. It's like with the breathwork for me. Like I do breathwork all the time, and it's like that's just something I do, and something it's part of my being, it's part of my practice, and like it's been a great way to like put out consistent content, but also just do my thing, and I'm not worried about whatever. And I just think it's such a fine line, and it's such a creative relationship with yourself at this point in the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you really have to know and be in tune with what you like and what you want to do and how you want your life to go, so that then you can kind of capitalize on the fact that if you're just consistent, you can kind of get famous.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, I think even
Like,
either way, if you are more on the content creator side or you're more on the artist side, consistency is the thing that's going to make it work. Like, I think
Doesn't
the
matter.
artist side will take longer just because it'll be more difficult for people to find your work. But once they do, after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of doing it,
10 years.
then that's when it'll really hit, and you'll have more of a loyal, more consistent audience base than someone just being a content creator.
And
The content
you'll be
creator will get that audience easier and quicker, but I don't think the connection will be as deep.
Yeah. And you'll be so good at whatever you do.
Yeah.
Whatever you've been putting your artistic energy into, you're going to be amazing at.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, is the value there technically, like in the sense of it's reflected through the audience, but that is the actual value. Is just like, what have you mastered and what have you become so good at it that many people are interested in what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good conversation.
Yeah, I know. I'm like trying to loop it back to more of like the
I know.
literal style, like visual style of things. Yeah, it's been a good conversation, and I don't know how we got to where we are right now, but I'm like just trying to go back to the question of like how to find your style.
Yeah.
I think, and I wrote about this a little bit in the zine that I think I did. So I made a zine for my YouTube channel a couple months ago, and I actually just uploaded it to a podcast file. So if anyone, everyone listening to this right now wants to go check that out, it is for free. So it's in the link tree to this episode on our podcast link tree. You can find it. It's in a folder called Resources for All. And yeah, I made this zine that's like all the creative lessons I'd learned from the, I guess, 4 or 5 months of YouTube videos I'd made over the course of last year when I like restarted my YouTube career basically. And everything that I'd learned, I put it into the zine, and it was my creative lessons. But yeah, I can't remember if I did write about it or not, but basically to find your style, you just have to keep creating and pull from a wide variety of influences. I think the more scope of inspiration you can pull from, especially if it's not social media, because then you're going to get even more unique ideas. If you're watching random foreign films, or you're reading books or comic books, or you're finding stuff in your grandma's basement, like
watching old films.
Yeah, pull inspiration from as many sources as you can and just merge that together however you can. And so if you're pulling inspiration from social media, it already exists there. So people have seen that, people are used to that. It's obviously probably performed well if you're discovering that. So it's already in the public eye. So not that you can't pull inspiration from social media at all. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
But it's going to be
on it, though.
less unique in a way. But yeah, just like make the things that you love to make, and that'll be your style. It's kind of what you said earlier.
I feel like that's it.
So like,
well, cause,
yeah, for me, if I try and describe my style, I would say, apart from like the content of it, which is like all about nature, blah, blah, blah. So like shooting nature and adventure in itself is a style, because every post is roughly going to be me in nature or shots of nature. So that itself is a visual style. But in terms of like the actual visual style, I really like film photography. I have a film camera. I don't shoot on it all the time because film's super expensive, but I almost always edit my photos and my videos to look like film because I love that style. So the reason I do that is because I like old things. I like the way that films and photos looked before digital cameras came around. I like the simplicity of it. I like, I just like how the world was before plastic was invented. So I strive to make my images kind of look like that and have that more nostalgic,
Feeling.
raw, natural feel to it. I like film grain on my photos and my videos because that graininess, that grittiness just gives a texture that I think is more real. It's not as clean and polished and digital looking as most things we see nowadays. So
it creates
all of those things inform my visual style. And then obviously just experience as well. And like I've been doing this for 10 years. So the way I compose a shot is going to be different to the way you compose a shot. All informed by my experiences of what I've created. Yeah, that's what I would say on the visual style basis.
Yeah, and I think my style definitely comes from like I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
Doing photography, and when I was younger, we went overseas. My dad was studying Greek, so we went to Greece for a little bit, and I always was taking street photos. That was like how we were always navigating, or I was always walking around or going to places, and I took street photos, and that's totally like created the style of photography that I have. It's very journalistic. It's very like documentative in somebody's energy. You know, I want what is happening in that moment. I don't want them to notice that there's a camera on or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, kind of like what Dean's saying, there's an authentic depth in it that I enjoy and that I really like, and that I can capture somebody in a really present moment and then practice and shooting all sorts of different things and different people and all that sort of stuff, I think feeds into it. And watching films, like really inspiring films, documentary films, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, like I said, that kind of thing. Yeah, but I think that this style comes in through a conglomeration of all those things and mostly just practice.
Yeah, just comes with doing the thing for a long time and finding what you like and what you don't like. I think I also heard that style is a combination of things, but style comes from your limitations as well. So if you don't have, like if you have access to everything, it's almost overwhelming because you can make anything. Whereas if you just have
that's a great point, actually.
A macro lens, like that's all you're going to be able to shoot. Or if you just have a GoPro, your style will revolve around GoPro footage, and that will become your style because that's what you have access to. If you don't have a computer and like all you can do is draw or shoot on your phone, like that'll make your style how it is because that's what you have access to.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's like a really beautiful, like those limitations are so important to really create and find like what you...
Even if it's self-imposed limitations as well, I try and do that sometimes. Like some of my films, I'm like, okay, I'm not allowed to use any digital graphics or anything. I have to do everything by hand. And that gives it a certain look and feel and aesthetic and style, which I think is really cool.
All of my films, I'm like, I'm going to be broke, okay, the whole time. Gives a style, baby.
Your style's being broke. I mean, it does create a style. I get what you're saying.
It does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, even honestly, like having a lack of money and budget to make a high production film creates a style. Like think like Blair Witch Project has a style,
right,
which is handheld and shaky because they didn't have money to shoot it. So that limitation of money created the style, and now there's so many people that have replicated that style, even just on YouTube, like making horror films on YouTube.
Using that to optimize it. Use the limitation to like really,
push yourself creatively.
Push yourself forward creatively. Because the creativity doesn't care. The creativity actually does not care what kind of limitations you have. You might care, but the creativity in you that wants to express itself doesn't.
That is true.
Wants to do it.
Yeah, creativity doesn't have a mouth or eyes.
No, it just
or a
wants
brain.
to do it.
It just wants to be.
To get that out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the ego. So you're trying to make it perfect and expect it to be a certain way instead of letting the piece be what it wants to be. Well,
right.
Maybe that's my creative therapy advice to myself is let the piece be what it wants to be. And then you have to like tune in and listen to that, which is difficult.
It's another t-shirt.
We have so many t-shirts.
I know.
We gotta stop making them.
Comment below which ones you guys need.
Yeah, you've been writing them all down, right?
Yeah, I write them down and then I put like a little quotation thing and then it's like a t-shirt.
We've got to have at least like 15 right now.
I'll start crediting people too.
Okay.
A t-shirt by Dean. Let the piece be what... Wait, say it again. Let the piece be what it needs to be, yeah.
let the piece say what it needs to say, or be what it needs to be. Yeah, I like that. Cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. I'm pretty happy with that.
That's
I think
good.
I've successfully solved my own problems, but also at the same time not really. And that's what therapy is.
Well, it's also what artists what being an artist is. It's totally what it is. That is the nicest thing. Actually, that's crazy. Artist over therapy. It's like equals.
Yeah, it is the same.
Yeah,
like therapy, totally you go in and have your talking session for like an hour, and you're like, that was great to get that all off my chest. And then you walk out and you're like, what did I just pay for? What did I actually get out of that? And it's like, in that exact moment, it's nothing really, but over the next couple days, like your mindset subconsciously has changed on the topic, and it expresses itself over the coming days and weeks. But it just like that moment straight after, you're like, what did I... Did I actually get an answer there? I don't know.
I just spent half my rent money for what? Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's so helpful though, and it's so important to go just let those things out of your chest. And I think the artistic version of that and the creative version of that, and it's why it's like at a different pace than like social media and content creation, is the fact that the piece wants to figure itself out, like you're saying. Like let the piece be what it needs to be, and it's like it's kind of gonna. It's like you're working with it the whole time. You're really working with it and yourself, and like how it wants to show up and how you want to show up in it. And like an artist, like every single artist ever has always, been navigating these like relationships of like how you do you bring what's happening to your life to the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm even last point, and then we can close it up. But I'm even thinking about.
I've got one more after this. No, I'm kidding.
About some of the like Renaissance artists, how they were commissioned by, like, if you wanted to be an artist back in the day, the only way you could really afford or do that is if you were funded. You had a patron, that a really rich king or queen that paid for you to be an artist, and you would do portraits of them and their family and royalty and all that kind of stuff. Like you didn't paint your family. Like
just like
they didn't. If it was the filmmaking version, they weren't doing vlogs on Instagram, TikTok dances. They had to make videos for the people that paid them money. And so I lost my train of thought there, where I was going with that. Damn. Yeah, basically no, it's gone.
It's gone.
That sucks. It was a really good thought, but I just completely lost it.
When it comes back to you, we'll drop it in the next episode.
Yeah. No, it's gone. Anyway. Did you have one final thought or not?
No, I wasn't. I was kidding, actually.
Okay. I thought of a good idea for creative therapy. We can make that like a series within the Intentional Creator. Whether that's like, if you wanted to host it, or I could host it, like with actual people in real life that's in your life.
We could just keep it connected to this.
Yeah, so like if you want to have a conversation with one of your friends as a creative, and they are having, like, you just sit down and have a conversation and be like, what are you struggling with at the moment creatively?
Yeah, let's talk it out.
And then you and them just talk, and that's a video uploaded to the channel. Like, I don't have to be involved, and I can do the same thing here. I think that would be really cool. It
could be really cool. It could also be really interesting.
It could be. I mean,
there could be a lot of different things with that. I think that's a cool. I like that. I like it that it's like connected into the Intentional Creator podcast.
Yeah,
that's again what it's for.
Exactly. Sweet.
Doubt.
Feeling good.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Check out the link tree to get access to free stuff.
The zine.
And the YouTube and the Instagram, and Jackson is hopefully going to be starting a TikTok soon, and we'll maybe start posting short form content soon. We'll see. That's a whole nother workload in itself. So
yeah,
we'll get there. But yeah, if you're listening, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate your support. Leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Tell your friends.
Share it. If this resonated with you and you know any artists who have these conversations,
who need creative therapy.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like, it's just a conversation we're all having, and so let's all join into it and share with one another and ask us questions.
Cool.
Thanks for listening.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. We'll chat to you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.